Hello, hello, hello. It is August 14th, 2023, and it's been a day already. It has been a long day. Had a power outage, so it's like, it's been a long day. So this is the new background because, yeah, that power outage. So the baby disc is, I don't know if they're ready, but they ready. They on here. So if you remember this aquarium from, coming over my house doing choir practice and stuff like that. Yeah, this is the same aquarium from all them years ago. Imagine that. So wow. This is the very first aquarium that Eddie had purchased for me when we were courting over 20 years ago, and we have been married. That was we were courting for like 7 years, and then got married, and we've been married for over 20 years. So altogether, it's been a while. I'm not gonna date myself. So, I mean, the gray hairs are already dating me. So I'm not going to date myself more than the grays are already dating me. Okay. So anyway, um, today's show is, yes, we have jokes. So stay tuned to the end. Um, this is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition Network. Here, we like to volunteer this time to interact online free of charge to provide a holistic guided perspective towards mental health and physical wealth by linking subjective and objective perspectives via science and faith to aid well rounded knowledge and positive mental health. You see, science is the method humans use to tangibly make sense of things, is part in all of humanity that compels people to discern, be creative, compassionate, and spontaneously behave as they do. The subjective perspective is opinion based, and the objective perspective is based upon facts. I got a little wobbling going on. Um, and facts are like factors of evidence of God, and that the other factual evidences that can make you understand something that's an opinion or a feeling is actually real or fact. What you say, Eddie? See, that's what happens. That's what happens. So anyway, we're gonna keep moving. So one of the main points of the Adroit Living Interactive live stream has always been to show how mental health is physical wealth, and each episode is a different contribution towards such effort. I appreciate your feedback and comments, but most importantly, I appreciate your attention to my unique approach of mental health being physical wealth. It can be extremely stressful and difficult to help people with mental health, but pray God give it to you because God fills the gaps. Sometimes topics can be a little tricky, so I encourage you to, you know, watch until the end. You may not um, get what's being said until you get to the end. Like, I don't know what's these comments say. Thank you for coming, Eddie. The man. I don't know. I don't know what man that was, but anyway, so I just encourage you to continue to watch all the way to the end. I've also challenged viewers to watch each episode at least 3 times, each time having a different perspective to assist with mental health, critical thinking skills, memory, and understanding, just to name a few benefits of repeating watching my videos, which challenge trending perspectives. Uh, what, the fish tank? Oh, the man said it would last a lifetime. Yeah, and it's been one, hasn't it? It's been one. Okay. Hey, Sean Anthony, thank you for coming. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We need these comments. Okay, so we're gonna have to get right into it. So today I want to present to you a new challenging way to a perspective to have on the Montgomery, Alabama brawl. It's a hot topic right now. A mainstream talk show host who airs at night asked, I'm not going to say any names, how does a small town brawl hit mainstream news coverage? There's so many things I would like to say about that, so many things I would love to say about that. But um, and then the comments that were made that he made after that. But I don't have a lot of time today. We had an outage, and yeah, I don't know how long that's gonna, last or whatever. So we're gonna try to get through this episode without getting booted. Let's try that. So I'll focus on my response to the question of how the brawl hit mainstream audiences. Please feel free to interact and share your thoughts here live. So interact like Sean Anthony and Eddie. Thank you for showing up. And thank you, viewers who have not commented, but you're still there. Okay. I'm glad the world can see the jokes derived from the Montgomery, Alabama brawl. It allows everyone to see African Americans cannot possibly be the ignorant, angry for no reason beast who act out in fatal rages when their life, family, and livelihood are all threatened. Yes, we have jokes. The way divisionist history is written, it was intended to show African Americans as a mud of people with random anomalies who happen to display human intelligence and emotions if properly controlled. There's many ways to respond, but yes, we have jokes. By studying history, inquiring minds will learn African Americans were actually conditioned to behave or react in violent ways in response to threats and mistreatments. Mainstream news reports perpetuated that perspective, and they created it as well because it's you can't have that kind of perception if you've never had an African American person in your vicinity or in your community. So the only way that you would even have that perception or that notion, that thought, is that you saw it on the news. And I have a lot of white friends who tell me, they know that African Americans don't really act like that, and then they say things like racism doesn't even really exist. It's just what the television shows. And I have to beg to differ and tell them my experiences and say, well, some of the TV, the mainstream television and the news, it is contrived to, elicit fear and, things of that nature. But some of it, yeah, some of it is not, made up to talk about how bad, behaviors are towards that community. Anyway, with all that being said, history of going postal was not coined due to anyone from the African American community. So there's that thing. A mainstream talk show host who airs at night asks, "How does a small town brawl hit mainstream news coverage?" Well, African Americans have always been mindful of their situations. It was just never um, a defining event in their life which compelled them to accept their forced fate over their destiny they are firmly committed to manifesting. So it's not to say that, just because they're committed to manifesting the destiny they feel compelled to manifest, is not to say that they're unaware of what the contrived um, forced fate is being the twisted narrative of trying to get them to act out in a particular way so it can make it seem like it's justified when they're mistreated or hurt or harm comes to them, or they can no longer have a livelihood because now uh, some behavior justified taking their livelihood from them. We're seeing a lot of that with these Karens now, and a lot of the Karens aren't happy about it because the only way we're able to see it is not just by us vocalizing the problem, but by us televising the problem. And that was a main problem, which is why it was important to talk about what the talk show host said about this particular brawl hitting mainstream audiences. African Americans have always been mindful of their situations. It's not it's not just this brawl. It's not just having a knee on the neck. It's not just one particular incident. It's historical. It's just never been broadcast on mainstream media which is why a lot of people get their information from YouTube, and YouTube has blown up. They get their information from Google, and Google has blown up, and all these other lesser medias have skyrocketed in their stocks and things because everybody's invested into showing and telling their story, regardless of the fact that mainstream news media perpetuates the narrative of twisting things to fit whatever the political perspectives they have or their supporters and financial backers are trying to push. So that's how it hit mainstream. Now, if historians go back through history to tell the story in a way that makes sense, as everyone in the world is, saying, and all these viral trends are saying, make it make sense. Well, if they were to go and stop burning them books or restore them ashes or something, I don't know, everyone will be able to see African Americans were never thinking about replacing another culture or preparing for a hostile takeover or purposely reacting in fatalistic ways. Yet, for far too long, the mainstream media painted a false narrative and the truth is bleeding through. Perhaps the best way of seeing the truth is to look at history to show you how you have been manipulated, controlled, and conditioned to behave in fatalistic ways, which causes your culture's population to dwindle down. Because a lot of people feel like if they feel justified and vindicated when they do harm to someone, when the mainstream news media is saying, yeah, it's justified, go and attack these people because without being controlled, their population is out of control and all of them are angry and they're mean for no reason and violent, fatally violent, and they steal and doing all these other things because that is the only thing that was being perpetuated. That one perspective was the only thing that was being perpetuated in mainstream news media. So now, with the internet and YouTube and Google, you have different perspectives that are not being sponsored by people who want to twist the narrative to their particular perspective. So you have that. But anyway, the numbers of the population dwindling now, which again doesn't make sense to believe that African Americans have had any control over declining population of other cultures, especially when African Americans don't even control what's broadcast over mainstream news. So it never made sense. But a lot of people weren't able to get on mainstream news media and say, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. The African Americans in my community are really nice. The African American communities in my community don't do this, or they're not like what's being shown on mainstream news media. But they did not have a voice because, again, it's like having an experiment. You don't know. They say that all the world is a social experiment. If all the world is a social experiment, there's a control group, and then there's the non-control group. So you got to ask yourself, who's being controlled? There's countless reasons I'm glad the Montgomery, Alabama brawl has gone viral. Well, one key reason the brawl has gone viral is because no one wants to miss out on the opportunity to laugh until your stomach hurts. I'm happy the world can see African Americans' spirit still isn't broken despite the ongoing mistreatment. Despite everything, the world is watching the way African Americans have coped with decades of oppression, atrocities like lynches, attacks against innocent civilians, and people from the community who have made positive contributions to our global society, and personal attacks against our integrity, and justify it all by saying African Americans are too stupid to understand what is happening. Or African Americans deserve the worst because they will needlessly harm others if they are not kept underfoot. So these were the narratives that were being perpetuated in mainstream media. So I'm happy that we're able to see globally that yes, we have jokes. And that is a coping mechanism that is not exclusive to one culture. Everybody can, manage their own coping mechanisms. But this is definitely one that seems to have been a generational trend with African Americans. They take their situations and they make jokes because it beats the crap out of crying about it. But anyway, African Americans have never been the ones pulling your strings, playing puppet master games. Everything done in the dark is coming to light and getting a peek behind the curtain, then joining those behind the curtain will no longer make sense because the target is more obvious now. The cure to what's wrong with Karen is clear. Karens didn't know they were really the target and the controlled variable in the social experiment. Meaning male and female Karens, viral and private Karens. Watch Eddie's History Interactive live stream on Thursdays and ask him to share the historical facts that connect the Karen mentality to the past. You'll be surprised. It's just like I said in previous shows, they're just relabeling these same things. You just got to make the connection. Anyway, African American people did not make Karens, and if you think about it, I mean, really try hard to see past the twisted narrative, you'll see the real target. Look at the Montgomery, Alabama brawl. It's not just African American people fighting white supremacy, as some people will argue is a visible trend of race wars, and this is one of them. But look closely. It's a bunch of Americans fighting people against wrongdoing. A dingy load of male and female parents being troublesome, but never really being no harm. You know how they say that, never really meaning no harm. Um, and it's even out that the police asked the captain of the boat not to say anything when they were acting out from previous times, so that they would not be convicted of the wrongdoings that they were causing and the problems they were causing for um, hundreds of people who were trying to dock. But allowing those things to continue to go on with the title, "Oh, they never mean any harm." Yeah, that's a part of the problem. So even though their previous transgressions were dismissed as good old behavior does get dismissed, it allows the person who getting away with murder to get out of control, and in turn lead in the image being painstakingly clear. White people and all American people are fed up. No one is going to keep taking their misplaced aggression out on African Americans, because African Americans have historically been fighting with white people who are against the very wrong that is causing Karens to go wild. Now you're in on the joke too. So just in time for the numbers to change and be on your side. Imagine that. But Civil War. If you look at the Civil War, it was only able to take place because it wasn't just white supremacy against all black people, which included all white people were not included in white supremacy. So it was not white supremacy means all white people and against all black people. So you don't. It's not to say that a it's not like that. It's more of a mentality than anything, because you do have some black people who are also white supremacists. You also have some other cultures that are also white supremacists in the groups of that category, whether they're accepted or not, who are against African Americans and anybody who sides for African Americans or equality. We should put it that way, because a lot of people are getting the narrative twisted because they're not able to understand what it actually is. So when you look at the Montgomery, Alabama brawl, you will see African Americans and white people fighting together, because it is not just about white and black. It is the mentality of oppression and the acts thereof, and it's not just by the color of one's skin that this mentality of suppression and oppression is going on. So now you can understand a lot more clearly that it's not just about the color of one's skin, but the mentality of oppressing people because of the color of their skin, regardless of what color of your skin. You might still say, hey, well, I don't think any African American should prosper. And you might actually be African American. So you will keep African Americans underfoot. It is not to say that, oh, it's all black people and all white people against each other. That has never been the case, not even historically or even biblically. I recently saw a viral TikTok, and it's trending for America's of various cultures and status to be seen complaining of being more aware of how they are being manipulated, controlled, and limited. One of the American blonde women on that TikTok, she said she was employed as a nurse. She made it clear she makes more than her husband. I don't know why she had to do that, but anyway, uh, she still said that he makes a good wage as well, and together they earn a six-figure income, but still they are struggling to make ends meet. Of course, there were African Americans going viral who shared the same discontent for earned income not meeting, the family's needs. But it was different. The blonde American women were shocked and amazed, completely mystified, and the African Americans were just fed up and proposed a solution to stop feeding into the broken system. So I guess to answer the late show host question of why did the Montgomery, Alabama brawl go viral? Well, because it had to. The narrative is not black against white, no matter how many historical, records you destroy or books or rewrite or ban. That has never been the case. Even the Bible shows patterns consistent with understanding the problem is not cultural or class against class. It's about live and let live, doing no harm to others and prospering in logical ways because that's what's sustainable. Not greedy, vengeful, covetous, sneaky, narrative twisting, hoping the people who look like you don't realize you're really playing them, not the culture you're acting like you're both attacking. Might have to rewind and catch that one because that was a tongue twister there. But, wait a minute. A cat just ran out of a bag. I wasn't expecting, that for a couple of more generations. That cat just ran out of there. But anyway, I'm just saying it's been very clear African Americans have never logically been America's problem, let alone a problem to the world. They just simply never had such positions of power or influence or control. Yet during the COVID, um, what do you call it? The pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen global reports of attacks to the African American community, and it just didn't make sense because it's like, why are you attacking a harmless victim? The lowest man on the totem pole, and trying to blame them for things that they have absolutely never historically been able to control ever. So a lot of the times the reason why the jokes just come so easy is because it's like, wait, what? That was funny. What are you talking about? That's not even possible. It's illogical. So then the jokes just roll off because it's no other way to see that. Like, you can't be serious. So yeah, it's funny. Like, wait, what? You can't possibly be serious to think that African Americans all over the world is the problem. We don't even have, the power or influence to control the things that's happening in our own community. Um, because we don't have the collective funds, we don't have mainstream news media. So wait a minute, what? We can't even control the narrative not being twisted against us. So it's like they definitely cannot be America, let alone the world's problem. African American people didn't even exist until long after America was colonized. So clearly, they can't be the problem when the reason for colonization was to run away from the country where Americans originated from, and they were escaping from the problem. So the Americans that took root here came from some other continents, and those continents they were fleeing from so that they can have the liberty to live the way they wanted to here in America. So when those people from those cultures and those continents came to America, they decided live and let live. You know, there was that one time where there was like peace, love, and happiness, and everybody was having sex with everybody and having babies by everybody. So now everybody's part of everybody. So it's like they're too young in generations to have such powerful influence. They're not the gatekeepers. They're just babies in their infancy, still trying to make a name for themselves and try to control the narrative. But everyone, all the other cultures, are so much more advanced than them. They are the ones that's controlling the narrative. They're the ones that's um, having the heavy influence. So it just doesn't make sense, which is why it's got to be clear by now that it's not white people, all white people against black people, and that's the label of racism. That's never been the case. Again, make sure you watch Eddie's History live stream show on YouTube every Thursday, and be sure to ask him to connect the part of the current events that you're seeing with these things to the past and how it's relative so that you can understand exactly what I'm saying. It'll help with making sense of things and clearly seeing the positive way forward, which is what everybody should be trying to focus on right now, a positive way forward. So to make it make sense, stop with the misplaced aggression and join the fix. A lot of times you'll see in the history of things when African Americans are under attack, they're not even focusing on the fact that they're under attack. They're focusing on the fix. They're focusing on, well, what do we got to do to get over this? What we got to do to fix this? This is, they're not pointing a finger and saying, well, John and them oppress our people, and now that we finally learned how to speak your language, we want to go back to Africa, and we're trying to take all our children that we have left from all the lynchings and things and take them on back to Africa and show them their family. That's that they didn't do that. What they did was they said, okay, well, we're at civil war. We're going to help you, despite the fact that a lot of other cultures and countries were like, you can just come here with us. You don't even have to deal with that. They said they would stand and fight because it is not, nor has it ever been, all white people against all black people. And that's the label of racism. That's the label of white supremacy, because it is not. Even white supremacists have bouts with other white people for other reasons. But that y'all can look at Eddie and ask him about that. So just to get mentally clear to understand. So when you're faced with things like the young lady, the 20-year-old and her 21-year-old mate who had the baby, and the doctor decapitated the baby in the process of trying to deliver the baby's head was in the birth canal, and the shoulder was stuck on the pelvis, and the doctor decided to do a cesarean while the baby's head was still stuck in the birth canal and rip the baby's head off. Now the couple was African American, and so was the doctor. So it is not to say that just because the doctor was not white, that this was not something that we should all contribute to the idea that there's a mentality out here that is saying be uh, fight against African Americans. So it is not just the color of your skin that you should be concerned about. It is a behavior. It is a mentality. It is something going on in people's minds that is causing them to feel and react in this way. So that's I'm just saying, make sure you understand that. I believe everyone will see what we all see in current viral stories where the truth bleeds through the twisted narrative of violence against barriers that should not exist. So, first, we have to understand that it's not just all the people who look white against all the people who look black, because that is not the limitation of that situation. The fact is, we thrive when we are not afraid to love ourselves and one another. Due to twisted narratives that only make sense to say is how we justify limiting ourselves, but thought we were only harming others and not ourselves. Like Michael Jackson said, you gotta look in the mirror and make that change. It's the man in the mirror. So you have to understand that you know when we are able to understand that it's not just about skin color, it's about a mental or mentality or something's going on mentally, then we can start to understand that um, the fight is not what we thought it was. So when you see the Montgomery, Alabama brawl and you see both white and black people fighting together, what you're seeing is a mentality. I've said it on about the Tower of Babel and how the tower was being built by a bunch of people who had the same mentality. And then their language was broken up according to how those mentalities were matched. Some people spoke different languages all the way up the tower, and then they had to come down from the tower, find out who all had the same language, and those people that spoke the same languages, they pulled apart and went into their separate groups. It was not about skin color. Even in the Bible, you can see it was never about skin color. What did you say, Eddie? It was, yeah, it is. It's a distraction. If you ask my opinion, the color of one's skin is simply a distraction that is easier to place a label on in order to blame for the response or the action or the stimulus or the trigger. So it's not to say that it's not a contributing factor. It's to say that it is a misdirect. The people, like a lot of Karens, going wow because they're seeing people that look like them going against them, and they can't understand. Well, why are you going against me? I'm a white person. Why are you doing that? I'm a white person. I'm supposed to be able to act like this, and everything's supposed to be okay. And everybody is looking at them like, well, Karen, if we think about Karenism as being a spirit or a mentality, then we can disassociate it from being a color to being a behavior instead. If we disassociate racism from being a color of one's skin to being what exactly it is, a mentality, a behavior, or even a spirit, a familiar spirit, then we can start to understand the positive way forward. For example, when Jesus was in the Bible and everyone was talking about Jesus and how he was performing miracles, he wasn't limited to just Jews or believers of God. He helped everybody. It didn't matter what their culture was. It didn't matter what their faith in religion or God was. It didn't matter what their age was. It didn't matter what their affliction or how they were being oppressed or held back. Their status did not matter. Nothing mattered but the fact that they were standing in the need, and They were in his path and he helped them. And that opened up a different understanding to help everyone who is watching. If you're studying to show yourself approved as it says you should do, then you're understanding that it is not the distracting factors or contributing factors that people want us to focus on. It is the fact that there is a mentality, there is a familiar spirit that a lot of people are saying in churches or faiths that believe in God. They're saying you got to pray it away. That's a fact. That's a factor. But you also have to combine that with natural behavior, meaning this flesh, because I do believe, now don't quote me because I'm not a theologian, I'm not a Bible person, like, that's not what I went to school for. I'm just saying. But I do believe it says first natural, then spiritual. But I don't see any of the preachers in my comments, so I might be saying it right, I might be saying it wrong. Check the comments, they'll tell you. But the point of the matter is you can't separate the two. And if we're supposed to be both, then we have to focus on the fact, not just the factors of facts and the contributing factors to a fact, but we have to look at it in a holistic way so we can have a clear understanding and a grasp on reality that is more sustainable. So we're not so rocky and shaky that every time we see something happen, we have to be triggered to respond in the contrived way that they get to justify why they're mistreating us. And it's not just African Americans, because if you look at what's really happening, you'll see the police are killing white people and other people of other cultures just as well, but they are killing African Americans at a disproportionate rate. So they're doing it more to African Americans. So it perpetuates that persona, that illusion that's still bleeding through, that it's not just them. It's not just African Americans. It's a mentality that is taking over, and that mentality of self preservation, greediness, covetousness, abuse of authority, the I can do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it because I don't mean any harm. That's a good old, behavior. It's just good old me. That is out the door. That is out the window. People are fed up because, like in that TikTok that I mentioned, people are saying, I can't afford groceries. So I certainly can't afford the patience to deal with your Karenism or your mentality being so skewed that you don't understand because you didn't read the room that this ain't the time for that. So when the dinghy full of people who blocked the people from getting into the dock, the Marriott and the other boats from getting into the dock at the Montgomery Brawl, they didn't read the room. They didn't read the atmosphere. They didn't read the current era that we're in, that it is not just African Americans that's saying, look, y'all need to stop. And if that were ever the case, that it could be a time that African Americans could all unite it and say stop, and things would stop and improve, then that would have happened a long time ago. It was never the case. Even back when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and my uncle Fred Shuttlesworth and Rosa Parks and all of those people it was not just the African Americans. It was white people. It was a lot of white people. So it was a unified people who had the mindset that this must stop. Then when they looked around, taking a poll, who wants this behavior, they noticed something that we all need to understand. It is a limited number of people, and that limited number of people who are wayward and want the Karenism and want the waywardness and the hatred and evil or whatever the undesirable behavior is, it's only a few of them. And the majority, They want peace, love, happiness, live and let live, sustainable generational wealth, not just something that's for now and we coveted, some things and now, we it's unsustainable. So now, we can't retain that wealth and we can't generate new wealth. So we're kind of stuck. Meanwhile, the very people who have been coveted, they're prospering still because they had something that you could have shared and grew together. The African proverb that says, I am because you are. That means that there is already an understanding, a foundational understanding in Africa where African Americans have descended from. They are a part of Africa. They already innately have this understanding that they are because you are. So together we move in unison and we move in greater um, wealth. We move in greater prosperity. We move in greater innovative, creative um, excellence where we can excel and it's excellent. It's not something that's like, oh, well, it's broken, but we're going to still work with it. We're going to rig it so that it still functions, but we know it's broken. No, it's excellent. It's functional. It's created for the purpose and is manifesting its destiny for fulfilling that purpose. So it's sustainable. It's like a brand name product. You have that brand name because it comes with a label of being having sustainable uh, efficiency where it works. It works effectively for a very long time. And that's why it has that name brand. So if we stop mislabeling things and stop saying that these are unprecedented times and stop saying it's a Karen and it's only white people and stop saying, oh, all black people are the ones that's causing the problem. If we stop trying to categorize it in that manner and understand that our forefathers already knew that it was a mentality, and that mentality was not exclusive to a skin color, age, or a lot of the other misleading factors that we've been, distracted to focus on and point fingers at only to find that we were wrong. That person is not the problem. And I misjudged that person because the color of their skin when I should have been watching their behavior, when I should have been listening closer to what they were saying so that I can understand that I'm listening with a biased ear. I'm listening for everything that you're saying wrong. And I'm only taking in part of what you're saying because I'm only listening for everything you're saying wrong. And that's how your mentality gets messed up. And that's why you don't get invited to the family barbecue. And everybody that looks like you is at the party and at the barbecue. And you standing on the outside trying to figure out what's wrong with you and why you didn't get the invite. It's a mentality. That's what it is. It is a mentality. And that mentality is the controlling variable that's causing you to respond or be triggered to respond in a way that manifests the forced destiny on you as opposed to you being able to manifest the innate destiny that you feel compelled to manifest in of your own and in yourself. And that's why a lot of times you battle with, man, something's wrong with me mentally. I'm around all these people and we all having fun or laughing and playing, but I am not happy. I'm not really laughing. This is not a real smile. Something is wrong. Yeah, because it is a mentality. So it doesn't matter what's on the outside. The outside is a factor. There's something going on and it's being exhibited in your behavior. It's being exhibited in your verbiage and your communication. And that is the situation. It's not to say, oh, well, because you like to dress a particular way. Oh, well, because you like to be around, keep certain company that you probably are not thought at first that that's the kind of company you should keep. It's not about that. It's about What's going on with you mentally? Are you okay mentally? So that when you see both white and black and Asian and everybody getting together and fighting against wrong, you're not sitting there confused like, wait, what happened? Did I miss something? Yes, you missed something. You missed this episode that says we have jokes. And the joke is you're distracted with things that everybody has already long understood is not the real reason, is not the real problem. It's not the reason for what's going on. It's the mentality. That's why a lot of African American people have family members that's white and Asian and Mexican or Hispanic or whatever. That's why they can be so diverse and all get along because they have that same mentality. The mentality that I'm all for it. I'm here for it. Love, peace, unity, longevity, in prosperity and peace and happiness. Whereas some other people are looking at it like, no, I think I could take what you got and I can make it my own. No, I think that I can deceive you into believing I'm with you because I look like you, but really I'm against you and everything you stand for, and I can't stand you or your people or people that look like us. Now that's on both sides of the spectrum. I don't care if you're Asian, if you're African American, if you're Hispanic, if you're white. That's across the board. That mentality is across the board. And from what I can see from all the studies, it happened during the Tower of Babel, where it's most prominently seen, where it's most noticeable that it can be seen, the Tower of Babel. So yeah, we have jokes because it's like, what else can you do? You can't control anything. You can lie and control the narrative, but that's not going to change the reality. It's not going to change the facts. The matter of the fact is, you can burn as many books as you want. You can lie to people, tell them skin color against skin color. You can do whatever you want, but the fact of the matter is, the truth is always going to come to the light. And when people start to look around and say, well, why am I the only one is left out, or why am I only among the few who are left out of all of the fun and games and the jokes and all the things that's going on? Why am I the only one offended? Why am I the only one that's hurt? Because you got the wrong mindset. You have the wrong mindset. And another thing, let's stop thinking we're going to psychologists for them to solve all our problems. They're human. They are well trained, some, and some are actually more helpful than others. But let's be realistic. Psychologists can listen to your problem and hold water. They're not gonna tell your business. Let's keep that as a basic, you know, expectation so that your expectation and reality will meet. You know, so stop thinking that they're there to solve your problems because everybody isn't that good. Everybody that's a psychologist or psychiatrist, they're not that good. Some can do that. Some can help you do that because it's not that they are the ones doing it. They are helping you to do that. They're helping you to solve all of your problems because your solutions are based on your limitations, your ability to receive and encode and use that information, take in that information and use it according to the proper situation, as opposed to you going to a psychologist thinking they solved your problems and now it's a blanket cure, a panacea for all of your problems, and you're sitting there thinking, oh well, she said just wink and nod, just wink and nod. Now you're a pedophile because you're winking and nodding at kids. It didn't go the way I thought it would. It worked with everything, but when I winked and nodded at a kid, then everything went wrong. I got mislabeled. It's not a cure for everything. You have to understand when to apply what. So just like this show, just like every show I do, take the information, like I said in the first show, in the very first episode, I said, take the information and use it like lotion. Use it like lotion. If you take that sort of mentality with everything you hear and everything you see, all the good advice and all the the Bible says, do all things decently in order. If you're doing everything decently and in order, it's a lot like using lotion. Use it as it applies. Don't just use it randomly and use it for cooking food, and now you're cooking food with lotion instead of cooking oil. You got to do things appropriately, decently, and in order. And if you take information in that same thought process, you'll get further faster, and it'll be more sustainable to a positive mental health, or at the very, very least, a less rocky mental health. Okay, so that's my episode on we have jokes, because yeah, it was so many jokes. I was like laughing so hard, crying, laughing, and some of the jokes a lot of people won't be able to understand because they don't understand the faces of the people in those pictures, and some of the people in the pictures, um, they're watching the response of the collective responding to the Alabama brawl, and everyone's working in unison. And you'll see a face, and it looks like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. looking back and seeing everybody unified uh, against wrongdoing. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream. A lot of people don't even know his face, but he had a dream, and he said, one day we'll all act together. We'll all be in unison. We'll all live as one people. And the Montgomery Brawl did show one people. It showed black and white people that were attacking wrongdoing. That's it. That's it. Now, I understand that there is an underlying uh, motivator of racism. But the matter of the fact is, racism is not what we have been taught to think that it is. So we need to take that into account, and we need to act on that thought and perpetuate that thought. Now, I know it's a whole lot of people watching these shows. I know it's a whole lot of people reading my Facebook messages and things like that. And I know this word is going to get out there. So I want you to understand what racism is, what it looks like, and don't be deceived by the color of skin, because that is not the only factor. Now I'm going to talk about this aquarium back here, because a lot of people always ask about the aquariums. So I'm going to, what did you say, Eddie? Take the Faces Matter quiz. Eddie developed the Faces Matter quiz on the Erudition Network. Feel free to go and look at that and help familiarize yourself with these faces, so you can better understand. Because yeah, African Americans got jokes, and you want to be in on these jokes because they really are hilarious. Because the reason why it was funny when Martin Luther King's picture was being shown overlooking the brawl, the Alabama brawl, is because people fought against that dream that he had of that unity, and people said it would never happen. And it's like, y'all were wrong. Y'all were wrong. It's happening. It's happening. They're trying to twist the narrative to make sure it doesn't happen, and trying to twist the narrative to think that it won't be possible. But it is happening. It's happening. And just because every black person is, you know, a family member to a white person, and they don't have that resume on their back, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that they still don't have that same love and unity. Watch what people do. Watch what people are doing. Watch what people are saying. That's what's going to tell you about the mentality of those people. And if you watch closely, because nobody can be that deceptive, because it's innate in all of us to discern things. You can't fake it too hard. That is that believable that we don't understand where you stand. So there that is. But anyway, back to the aquarium. So this aquarium I've had. Oof, I don't want to date myself again, but it's been a very long time, over 20 years, and it has held up. It is looking wonderful. There's two filters on it. It's 75 gallons, and I think it's like 3 feet long, or maybe 4. And the two filtration systems on there because one is a polisher to make sure the water stays polished, and another is a filtration system where it has the uh, the media, it has the carbon, the activated carbon, and it has sponges. Now, in my aquariums, I don't like to wash. I don't like to clean it all the time. I just don't have time. If I had the time, I play with it all the time. I just don't have the time. So I have to have something where it's like, okay, it gives me enough time and space that I don't have to clean it very often. So am I cleaning this aquarium every day, every other day, every 3 days, once a week? No. Every 2 weeks? No. I'm cleaning it when it gets dirty. I'm cleaning it when I can't see from end to end, through and through. So as you can see here, maybe not so much because the lighting, but it's very clear. You can see from one end to the other, very clear. And you can see from the front to the back, very clear. And it's in front of a window. Some people say you can't put an aquarium in front of a window because it's going to break. Well, this aquarium, for the life of it, when 80 first purchased it, it went right in my room and it sat right in front of a window. And that window wasn't really sealed very well, and I never knew that you could not put an aquarium in front of a window. So it snowed in Chicago. It was cold as ice, and then you got that water, the cold coming off the water, and then it's called the Windy City. Yeah, it was cold sometimes, but that aquarium, it was custom made by a man who said that it will last a lifetime, and he was not lying. It has lasted a lifetime through military move and military move after military move. And if you have ever been in a military move, you know those jokers do not care about your products. They do not care about your your furniture, your belongings, whatever. They don't care, and it's still standing. It's still standing. The glass is still standing. So it went through a couple of changes in decor, but this is a live uh, plant planted aquarium. The rocks in there are artificial, but there's some plants all over in there, and I have some plants hanging at the top up there. Those are Amazon swords. The Amazon swords can provide. Okay, so those are the babies that came off the mother plant. The mother plant shoots up a vine, and that vine comes up, and babies are attached to it that are small baby Amazon plants. Now, those babies can be detached and replanted in the aquarium. And if you would like, you can attach it in the upper parts of the aquarium because it does not need to be in the media because it was born outside of the media. So now you can keep it out of the media, or you can risk putting it in the media. It may melt back a bit and then regrow from that. But I wanted to keep it out of the media and attach it to the back of the wall with some suction cups and even with some super glue to the roots of the pothos that are hanging on the back of the aquarium, which are the roots are sticking down into the water. The pothos roots are sticking down in the water, and the pothos is growing out of the aquarium. So the roots are unsightly. So I just attached the Amazon plant roots to the pothos roots, and it helps to keep the Amazon sword from going with the current and moving around and getting lost in there and getting stuck in that gyre right there. That gyre is providing a current that's going in a circle from the sweeping from the bottom to the top and from the top back to the bottom again, so that it hits that filtration in the back. So, and then there's a bubble wand in the back of the aquarium that's providing oxygen from end to end throughout the entire aquarium. All of those things are helping to keep the water clear and oxygenated so that the discus um, can breathe and be happy. And then there's a heater in here somewhere behind me, and the temperature is 82 to 83 degrees because um, the discus are tropical, and the plants they like it at that temperature as well. So not just the aquarium plants that's inside the aquarium, but the pothos, they like that temperature as well. So that's the aquarium. That's the baby aquarium, and today was its debut. And I hope you enjoyed the aquarium and the little tips on it. And if you want to see more, I did a whole episode series on it. So you can go back and watch those. You'll see an aquarium in there, and I'll tell you all about how you can manifest this aquarium setup on your own and what products you can use and where you can purchase them from. That's been my show today. Remember, mental health is physical wealth.